again, crossing live now to Angela Merkel, the German Chancellor, with her address.
Participate in this forum, even though it is an exceptional one for many reasons. First of all, because we are living during a pandemic, and it has never been necessary to replace the personal meeting with a virtual meeting. But now we cannot meet in person, so we have to do it this way. But let me go back to what I said 2 years ago when I quoted Alexander von Humboldt. I said he said everything is interaction. So centuries ago, he realized what we call multilateralism together is in fact the basis of our political activities and ought to be the basis. I think the last 2 years have made it clear once again that this support and this belief in multilateralism is the right thing. Our fight against the pandemic has made this clear once again. Dr. Tedros from the World Health Organization told us a few minutes ago, if we cannot make sure everyone is vaccinated, if the virus is not defeated all over the world, no one will be safe. No one will have the chance to be safe from this virus because there will be mutations again and again. So we have to make sure everyone in the world is quickly given access to vaccines. During the G7 meeting, Germany has advocated our support for the ACT accelerator and the COVAX vaccination initiative. So we've promised $2.5 billion that the program now has at its disposal. And we truly believe in these programs. With regard to climate change, biodiversity, the fight against terrorism, and then an even more urgent problem than it used to be in the past, the sustainability targets, which must be achieved by 2030. All these targets can only be met if we make sure we join forces in all these fields. Our security concept, and this is something that you, Mr. Ischinger, mentioned years ago and have done so in recent years. This is a concept of networked security, multidimensional security, interlinked security. This year, the prospects for multilateralism are a lot better than it used to be in the past, and that has a lot to do with Joe Biden being the new president of the United States of America. In his speech, he just announced that his administration has taken steps, and we have seen that this is not just empty words, but they're taken action. They return to the Paris Climate Agreement, the World Health Organization, the Human Rights Councils, the extension of the New START Agreement, then the readiness to reinvigorate the Iran nuclear deal. These are important steps towards more multilateral cooperation, and I can only support him in what he said. It's up to the democratic countries to do this, not just to talk about freedom and values, but to deliver results and to contribute all over the world. In Germany, we say that it's not enough to just say good words, to talk about good deeds, but you have to do them. So transatlantic cooperation has an important part to play in this. What does this mean for Germany? Germany, as a country that has always supported transatlantic cooperation and partnership, and as a member of the European Union, it means we have to continue our commitment in various fields, and we have to make sure we take action where it's difficult, where we need to struggle, where we need to overcome obstacles, and I think we've made some progress here in recent years. In 2014, when we were in Wales and talked about the 2% defense investment pledge when it comes to defense spending, we committed towards working in that direction, and today I can say that we are now at 1.5% that we've achieved this year. In 2014, we had 1.1%. We are still committed to the 2% pledge, and we will continue to work in that direction. Of course, it all depends on what else will be contributed to transatlantic partnership. And I'd like to point out that we've played an important part in Afghanistan for the past 18 years. In the north of the country, we help creating and protecting stability. I'm grateful for the fact that the American administration has now started a reassessment of the peace process in Afghanistan. Germany is prepared to stay longer if it is in the interest of the success of the mission and if the result is a mission that helps the democratic and peaceful forces in Afghanistan. Withdrawal must not mean that the wrong forces will get the upper hand once again. We are a framework nation in Lithuania. We help fighting Islamic terrorism. We are committed in Iraq. And Germany, of course, is committed to NATO as the central pillar of transatlantic relations, but also to European defense policy. We believe these aspects complement each other. They are not opposed to each other. They are not competing. They complement each other. They belong together. Our interests as European Union are sometimes more important to us than to others. For example, our commitment in Africa or the future of Syria. These are countries that are very close to Europe. They are in our neighborhood, and therefore we are particularly affected by what happens there. In recent years, we have increased our commitment in Africa, even though we know, of course, that France is bearing most of the burden there. Nevertheless, we are involved in the UN mission MINUSMA, a training mission for armed forces in Mali, but also in Niger, and we are also supporting the G5 Sahel initiative. I'd like to discuss this with the United States of America. How can we help these countries in their fight against terrorism? Could we not have a Chapter 7 mandate for the United Nations that would help those countries and support them in their fight, in their very difficult fight against terrorism? Our relationship with Africa is of great strategic significance, so naturally it has to be an important topic in transatlantic discussions. One of the hubs and one of the central points when it comes to defeating Islamic terrorism is the question, what happens in Libya? We have taken on more diplomatic responsibility there. I'm glad to say that we've had some success in the United Nations process, but we should not be naive. There's still a significant danger of Libya turning into the plaything of important powers without really providing a perspective to the Libyan people. The European Union is trying to help them, but the transatlantic partnership should also help make sure that the future of the country belongs to the Libyan people. We must support the constitutional process, and that is led by the United Nations in Syria, because in Syria, too, there can only be a peaceful solution if all the people who had to leave the country have a political future in their home country. We will, of course, cooperate closely when it comes to the JCPOA, the deal with Iran. We hope that the deal still has a chance. The transatlantic partnership has two major tasks ahead of it, and we need our joint strategy to tackle that, and one of them is our relationship with Russia. When it comes to the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine, we have not really made any progress in recent years. The Minsk process is a diplomatic instrument that can be used, but it has not been successful. Russia has repeatedly caused hybrid conflicts that EU states have been involved in. So we need an agenda on Russia, a joint agenda. We must offer cooperation on the one hand, but on the other hand, we must be clear about the differences we have. And I can only agree with the US President about the question of a strong European Union. Unfortunately, this is not what Russia is doing at the moment. The second thing, and that is more complex, we need a joint agenda with regard to China. China, on the one hand, is a competitor, but on the other hand, we need China to settle global problems such as climate change, biodiversity, and others. In recent years, China has gained more power on the international stage, and we as a transatlantic alliance and as democratic countries need to react to that. So the question about vaccine deliveries, not just from China and Russia to developing countries, that is an important question. Also the question, what can we do by means of COVAX, by means of multilateral efforts, communities such as G7, what can we do to make sure developing countries in Africa and elsewhere can make progress on that count? Multilateral organizations such as the World Bank, the World Trade Organization, the World Health Organization, the International Monetary Funds must be strengthened once again. Wherever we are weak, wherever we are too slow to react, too slow to make changes, subsidiary structures in Asia have often been created by China or led by China. So we must take action to show we have something to set against that. So together we must define the strategic challenges. The agenda is clear. We need to come up with ways of doing this together. Our interests will not always converge. We shouldn't be clear about that. Where there are differences, we should talk about them frankly. But the main principles, the values, our belief in democracy, there we broadly agree we have broad foundations to build on. We must make it clear that we do not want to create countries dependent on us, but we want to help others and convey our values and ideals, and the transatlantic partnership is at the core of this effort. I can only say there's a lot to do. Germany stands for a new chapter in transatlantic relations. We are ready for this, and I'm delighted to say we are ready to do this here at the Security Conference.